Eagles and Jets comes your way this Sunday, 1 o'clock at MetLife Stadium. And Pope Francis is actually coming to Philadelphia this weekend. And who would have thought going into the year that at this stage of the season, the Eagles would have been in more need of a papal blessing than the New York Jets. The Jets are red hot at 2-0. And the Eagles, well, they're not so hot, and everyone's jumping off the chip ship at 0-2. So let's go up to New York and welcome in our Jets expert from WFAN, the host of the Midday Show, and that's Joe Benigno. Joe, Zach Gelb here. Thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
Zach, what's happening, bro? How are you? 2-0 and ready to go, Zach. You know, that's what I would say. And I'm an expert on only one thing, aggravation, especially when it comes to the Jets over almost 50 years. So
no doubt about that. And the Jets are red hot. They have a really good pass rush, and they have a lot of Temple University guys. All I got to say to you, Joe, is Todd Bowles, Muhammad Wilkerson, and Jaquan Jarrett. You have to be an honorary Temple Owl.
Well, and let's not forget Joe Klecko, who now maybe because Darrelle Revis is coming on fast, and when I make this statement, Joe Klecko, of course, who may be the greatest defensive player to ever play for the Jets, and of course he went to Temple as well. So let's not forget Klecko as far as the Jet-Temple connection is concerned, Zach.
Of course, and hey, your head coach, he's a Temple guy, and I think that the Jets are moving in the right direction. I like their GM, and their head coach did a really good job out in Arizona with another Temple guy in Bruce Arians. What's impressed you the most so far with Todd Bowles as the Jets sit at 2-0?
Well, I'll tell you what, I just think and look, you know, I don't want to get crazy. I've seen this before because let me just say, the last three guys who were the head coach of the Jets all made the playoffs in their first year. Herman Edwards, Eric Mangini, and Rex all made the playoffs their first year as head coach. So let me say that before, you know, as I say what I'm going to say about Bowles. I think the one thing that's the most impressive is it's just the organization. You know, I mean, they're organized out there. You know, that as much as I liked Rex as a head coach, he wasn't always they weren't always that organized. You don't see this team. You don't get the feeling you're ever going to see this team do what we saw the Giants do the other day with Eli when they came out of a timeout and then had a delay a game penalty. I mean, I don't think you're going to see that kind of thing with the Jets. I think that's one thing, at least the professionalism that Bowles seems to have put over the whole organization. I think that's the number one thing, at least to this point.
And Bowles doesn't seem like a loquacious guy. It doesn't seem like he does a lot of talking off the field, where Rex would do all the talking, and it backfired on him against my team, the Patriots, last week when he's the head coach of Buffalo. It just seems like Todd Bowles has brought a new culture to this Jets team, and he's saying, hey, let's not focus on stuff outside the field. Let's just do all of our talking on the field.
Well, let me say this, though, too, in defense of Rex. I mean, let me tell you right now, this Jet defense, this may be the best Jet defense I've seen. I mean, it has that potential to be that. It's only 2 games. But Rex never had the combination of defensive line and pass pressure with the Wilkersons and now the Leonard Williams, and even Copels had a pretty good game yesterday. You know, he never had that combination with the secondary they have now. I mean, this secondary they have, I thought last night was maybe the best secondary play I've seen of a Jet team maybe ever. I mean, I really mean that. You know, and obviously Revis being back is a huge difference with this team. Buster Screen had a terrific game. Calvin Pryor played well. You know, all of a sudden that secondary looks very good. So Rex never had that combination. You know, he either had a defensive line like he had the last couple of years and no secondary, or he had no pass rush at all in the early days and a terrific secondary. So this defense, there's a lot of players on this defense, Zach.
And one of those big players is Muhammad Wilkerson. Do you think they'll eventually get that contract settled up?
Well, I think they have to, man. He's a terrific player. I mean, and through the first 2 games of the year, we've seen it. I mean, he's just been a disruptive force against Cleveland and obviously last night against the Colts. He's been great. Look, the Jets don't have to do anything right now. He's still under their control. I think what's going to happen is at the end of the year, they're going to put the franchise tag on him and then work something out. I just think he's much too valuable a guy to let get away, and especially with the uncertainty now surrounding Sheldon Richardson, who knows what's going to happen with him. So of course on that 4-game suspension right now. So I think they'll get it done. I don't think they'll do it until the off season. I think they'll go through the entire franchise tag and all that, and then eventually give him a long-term contract.
Joe Benigno joins us. He is the host of the Midday Show at WFAN in New York. And I just look at this matchup, Joe, and I don't see how the Jets aren't going to walk out of MetLife Stadium with the W. The Eagles' offensive line has just been horrendous through the first 2 games of the season. They're very weak at guard, playing with career backups. I just don't get, Joe, how the Eagles are going to go out there and block this Jets front 7.
Well, look, it's the NFL, Zach. You know as well as anybody. Anybody could beat anybody. I mean, it could happen. The one thing the Jets have been able to do through the first 2 weeks is, win the turnover battle. I mean, when you got a +8, takeaway, giveaway, 5-1 in both the first 2 games, they forced 10 turnovers. Let's be honest, bro. You're going to win a lot of games like that. And the one thing they got, if they can continue to do that and stay away from turning it over themselves, they're going to win a lot of football games. So, the turnover battle, the only stat to me besides who has more points that really ever matters in football is who wins the turnover battle. So that's been the big key in the first 2 games that they've won. So anything could happen with that. I agree with you. The Eagles have not looked good. I think Chip Kelly, man, to me, he's just another college coach that's coming into the NFL and wants to show you how smart he is. He wants to reinvent the wheel. And at least to this point, I know he won 10 games the first couple of years, but now he's got his team in there with his players, and he's gotten rid of a lot of big stars there in Philly, McCoy, Jackson, these kind of guys. He's got his team there now, so the pressure's on Chip Kelly, and we'll see now if he's as smart as he thinks he is.
And he went all in this offseason and made it clear that the message was, hey, it's my way or it's the highway. And he has complete power in this organization. And you know how Philadelphia is. They live and die by the success of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the fans went from hopeful to hopeless in the matter of 2 games. The Cowboys game was just a complete and utter disaster. And the head coach, hey, I didn't like what he's been doing in this offseason, and it's starting to really show that it's starting to go south. And he's stubborn. Do you see him making any adjustments? What kind of Eagles team do you expect on Saturday or Sunday?
The first thing that I couldn't understand, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I mean, it's your show. Look, the first thing the thing I didn't understand right off the get-go, Sam Bradford, really?
Makes no sense.
Why didn't you just trade all the way up and get Marcus Mariota? That's really the guy you wanted anyway. That at least made more sense to me, okay? But to me, Nick Foles is better than Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford has done nothing. Sam Bradford has never been, for all the talent he may have, he's never been able to stay on the field for a full season. He's always had some kind of injury issue. And to be perfectly honest, and I understand I'm a Jet fan, but let's be honest, Zach, Mark Sanchez has done more in his career as an NFL quarterback than Sam Bradford has. I mean, let's be real. He's at least taken a team to a couple championship games. The guy's won 4 playoff games in his career. Sam Bradford hasn't even smelled a playoff game. So I couldn't understand that. But again, I mean, I couldn't understand getting rid of LaShawn McCoy. I couldn't understand getting rid of Deshaun Jackson. I don't understand a lot of things this guy's done. So we'll see. Things better work out for him because Philly. It'll be a quick ride on the rail out of Philadelphia for Chip Kelly. That's for sure.
And the one thing that was the most concerning to me in that Cowboy game was Romo goes down. It's 13-0. They're driving, and they get at the 3-yard line, and he does a shotgun pass. It's incomplete to Nelson Aguilar. And then the second play is another shotgun pass, and it gets intercepted. I don't get what he does when he gets inside the red zone. You have DeMarco Murray. Put Bradford under center. I know it's not his system. And run the football, and he's just too stubborn to change his ways.
Well, you know what? He's not going to win, man. It comes down to that because you're right. I mean, why did you spend all that money on DeMarco Murray if you're not going to use it? This guy had 1,800 yards rushing last year. And he catch the ball out of the backfield. This guy was one of the best weapons in football last year. He was one of the top players in the game. You paid him all this money. You brought in Ryan Matthews as well. I never loved him, when he was in San Diego, but you did. You brought him in as well, and he, as a compliment to Murray, that's a good spot for him. And I don't get it, man. I mean, what did he rush for, like 20 yards in 2 games? I mean, they've hardly given him the ball. I know he scored a couple touchdowns in the game against Atlanta, but they hardly give this guy the ball. Again, look, I've seen a lot of college coaches, Zach, come, straight from college into the NFL, and it just doesn't work. I mean, going all the way back to Lou Holtz when he came out of, at that point, I don't even think it was before he even was at Notre Dame. I think he had just come from Arkansas. I believe he was the coach at Arkansas. And at that point, he took the Jet job. and he didn't even last a year. We're going all the way back to 1976. What a disaster it was, but it's a million years ago. But we saw that with Lou Holtz, we saw it with Steve Spurrier, even the great Nick Saban, as great as he's been, at LSU and Alabama, he couldn't cut it in the NFL. So there's been very, very few college coaches that could really cut it in the NFL in my mind. Jimmy Johnson obviously did. He's one of the very, very few that came out of college and really were pretty successful in the NFL. I know Pete Carroll was successful at USC, but he had been an NFL coach first, with the Jets and New England before he went to SC. So, and Jim Harbaugh, you can bring him up, but Jim Harbaugh to me is a guy who was an NFL quarterback to begin with. So he's got an NFL background anyway. He's not just a guy coming out of college like Chip Kelly. So, we'll see. But, look, you got to be able to run. If you're going to win in the NFL, for all, as much as a passing league as it is now, as much as the league is about fantasy football, which unfortunately it really is, let's be honest, but that's a whole other story, as much as it is about the quarterbacks and throwing the ball all over the place, you still have to be able to run the ball, and you still got to play defense to win championships. At the end of the day, and your team winning last year was a perfect example. It was a defensive play that won the Super Bowl for them. All right? It was a bonehead call by Pete Carroll. Again, trying to outspot the world. But you know what? Defensive play won you the Super Bowl last year. As great as Tom Brady was and everything else around it, that you don't win that without that play. So, it always comes down to being able, Zach, to run football and defense if you're going to win championships. As nice as it is, as I said, to put up fantasy football points, throwing the ball all over the yard.
That still must kill you. That still must kills you, though, that you have to look at Darrelle Revis and know he's a defending Super Bowl champion and won one with the Pats, right?
Look, Darrelle Revis to me, look, I had, he won last year. It hurts me that he had to go win a championship with the Pats, but I look at it this way. He's back where he belongs. The team righted or wrong. They should have never got rid of him to begin with. At least Woody Johnson and McCagnon and these guys were smart enough to realize, hey, we got to get this guy back. It's a double whammy. We get him back where he belongs with our team, and we take him away from your team. And let's be honest, Zach, you guys don't win a Super Bowl without Darrelle Revis last year.
I agree.
Last year with Revis and Browner last year at the corners, that's pretty darn good. And you don't win without him. He's a great player. He may be the greatest player at his position ever. As good as Deion Sanders was, and Deion Sanders was, the best I'd ever seen as far as a cover corner. The one thing Deion couldn't do that Darrelle does is tackle. Darrelle tackles. Deion would run away from tackles. So, Mel Blount was great. Willie Brown, the old Raider corner. There's been a lot of guys, Darryl Green in Washington, been a lot of great cornerbacks over the years. It's hard-pressed to top Revis. He's an all-timer. There's no doubt about it.
And he knows how to play the business side of it, but I have all the respect for him out of the world as a player on the field.
That's all part of it, though.
Yeah, no, it is.
Look, unfortunately, in this world that we live in, sports, and I hate that it's this way, and it's even worse in baseball with all the innings limits, with what's going on with the Mets and all. I don't want to get into that with Harvey. But, it's all about money now. You know that. What's it about, Zach? It's about money. So you can't blame, and especially an NFL player, I can't blame any NFL player for getting as much money as you can. These guys don't have guaranteed contracts, and, any day you could walk out there and it could all be over. Tony Romo, Des Bryant, you name the guy that we've seen go down over the years. One play, and that's the end of it. So I don't blame these guys at all for getting as much money as they can get.
Talking about money, and just getting real back quickly to the head coach and Chip Kelly, that's the thing, though. Even if this guy gets embarrassed and he gets run out of this town, and you know how passionate these fans are, he'll still go back to college, and he could be coaching Texas or USC next year and get paid $7 million a year.
Of course. No question about it. No, you're right, Zach. You're right. So he's got nothing to lose. He really, at the end of the day, a guy like that has nothing. It's like Saban. What did he have to lose? He didn't win in Miami. He winds up going back to college, right? LSU, of course, LSU's not good enough, so I got to go to Alabama. But whatever. That's a whole other story, too. But, yeah, so I'm sure that's what'll happen. He'll go run another pro. He'll eventually be out of the NFL sooner than later. He'll go back to college, like you said, make gazillions of dollars a year, whatever it is, $7 million a year, and resurrect and be a great college coach, probably win national championships. What are you going to do?
Yeah, wrapping up with Joe Benigno from WFAN in New York, the host of the Midday Show. Joe and Evan do a great job. The Eagles front seven, they are banged up, and that was a big strength of them going into the season. Kiko Alonso, Michael Kendricks, Cedric Thornton.
Alonso, is he out for the year, Alonso?
Eskin had a report today that it's 2 to 4 weeks, but he's going to be getting a second opinion. However, they could not get a pass rush going up against the Falcons. And if you can't get a pass rush up against the Falcons, you knew Julio Jones was going to torch you. Byron Maxwell has been a bust through 2 games, and he doesn't really seem to care. It looks like Marshall's going to tear them up once again this week, and it's going to be another big-name wide receiver making plays up against the Birds.
Well, first, Brandon Marshall, by the way, has been great in these first 2 games.
Great trade.
Can't say enough about him. Eric Decker's banged up. That's a little. We don't know about him. I don't know if we're going to see him this week. I know he's got. I know today. I didn't know what the results were. I think he went for an MRI today. He banged up his knee a little bit last night. So who knows? And he's been terrific too over the first 2 games. But Brandon Marshall, how good is this guy? I mean, I always knew how good he was, but watching him on my team now, and it's only been 2 games, but. Beside the fact with, whatever, what do you have, 6-7 catches last night, a touchdown where he dragged 3 guys into the end zone, over 100 yards receiving, he drew like 3 different defensive holding penalties, So, so this guy, he's a tremendous player. What an addition to this team, no doubt.
Do you think Fitzpatrick could sustain this success for the Jets?
It's all about, to me, bro, it's all about the team, not turning it over. Him playing, keep playing the way they're playing. And I'll tell you something else, but it's gone unnoticed over the first 2 weeks of the Jets. Fitzpatrick hasn't been touched. Not only has he not been sacked in 2 games, they haven't even laid a hand on him. That's how good the offensive line has been. So, if he's gonna get that kind of pass protection, and they're able to run the ball. Now they didn't run it that great last night. I mean, I give the Colts credit; they did a real good job in slowing the running game down last night. They definitely did. But. I like the way the way Daly's calling the offense. Look, they got a terrific defense. Play conservative football. Don't turn the ball over. You take your shots downfield occasionally. You got 2 terrific receivers with Marshall and Decker. And if this offensive line is going to protect Fitzpatrick like that, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, they can win. There's no doubt about it.
I just want to get your pulse on this team real quickly before we let you run, because as you know, ever since I was the age of 8, I've been tormenting you about my Patriots beating up against your Jets. Is this finally the year that
how old are you now? 42?
21,
21.
So I can get a drink with you, Joe.
Are you a senior at Temple or what?
Yeah, I'm a senior at Temple. This is my final year here.
You can have my job. I mean, I'm going to retire pretty soon, so you can have my job, bro. I mean, I'm an old man now. Come on.
Tell Chernoff I'll sign tomorrow.
Wind up with Francesca's job. Forget about me.
Tell Chernoff I'll sign tomorrow. But is this finally the year that the?
With your father being the agent, right? With Bobby being the agent, is that the deal?
He'll be the producer. I'll have him read updates. But real quickly before we let you run, the Pats look red hot too. Their offense looks unstoppable. Is this finally the year though that the Jets can win the AFC East?
Let's start. Let's be honest about this, okay? And you know, as much as I dislike the Pats,
this is music to my ears.
All the Deflategate stuff was nonsense. It's nonsense.
Thank you.
Are you kidding me? Give me a freaking break. So, and you know that all this is done. You know better than anybody. This is all Bill needs now. Bill gets Kraft and Bill and Brady and everybody up there, all of them, they get together in the big tower up there, with all the dragons and all that stuff going all over the place. You know what I'm saying? And they get up there in the big tower and this lightning's coming down and they're like, okay, they hate us. They're accusing us of everything. We're the big bad, the evil empire of the world and yada, yada, yada. And we cheat and we did this and we spy-gated and we didn't inflate the footballs and we didn't have the headsets on right in the opener against Pittsburgh. They were listening to the play-by-play and all of that, okay? All of that. And while they're shining up their Lombardi trophies, and they're just sitting up there laughing, going, okay, good, let them all hate us. And it just gives them more motivation to go out there and kill everybody. So, look, we saw what they did to Rex the other day. They just stopped that great Bill defense. I mean, stopped them, historically stopped them. Brady is obviously on a mission. They're the team. As long as Bill and Brady are there, they're the team to beat, bro. And now you give them even more motivation for this Deflategate garbage, and look out. But you know what? But I'm more than happy to have my team take their shot, and we'll see. It should be interesting. When is the first game? Is the first game a Thursday night game?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I don't think it is. I think it's like maybe like the end of last week in October. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I have tickets to it. I forget what the actual date is, but I'll just put it to this way.
Is the first game at the Meadowlands or up by you?
Yeah, it's up here, and then
we got the tickets to it. I mean, where is it?
I forget off the top of my head. You know, I have a lot of stuff to do here at college.
Don't give me a break. Anyway, go ahead.
But I'll just the final thing.
I'm more than happy to see the Jets take. We'll take our shots with our defense at your patch.
The final thing that I'll say to you about Deflategate is I'll just put it to you this way. I will not be sending Chris.
Praise your franchise. What more do you want me to do?
I will not be sending Chris Mortensen's #1 source and Mike Kensel a holiday card this year. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, all right. Well, don't worry about it. Like I said, here's the deal. How many AFC East titles have you won in the last 15 years? You got 6 Super Bowl appearances. You got 4 Super Bowl championships. What more do you want, bro? You got
another one.
You got arguably but seriously, you got arguably the greatest coach of all time, okay? And you got arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. Is that okay? You got enough?
No, it's fine. I never thought we'd get to this in this conversation of you giving the Patriots so many words of praise.
No, but it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of being, knowing football like I do and being honest about it. And it would be quite the feat to knock the Patriots off their perch this year. It would be, and if my team can do that, well, let's go. I'm ready to go. We'll leave it at that. How's that, bro? We'll see how the cookie crumbles. There's a lot of football to be played.
As you would say, Joe, all the love. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
All of it. We'll see you, Zach.